Have you ever felt like there's a powerful part of yourself that's been deliberately kept from you, like there's ancient wisdom about your true nature that someone doesn't want you to discover? In this video, I'll reveal 3 scientifically validated ways to unlock what researchers are calling divine feminine consciousness, and why this breakthrough is happening right now in 2025. After studying consciousness research from Stanford, Harvard, and indigenous wisdom traditions, I discovered that what our ancestors called divine feminine power is actually measurable brain frequency, and it's more accessible than you think. Here's where modern science gets fascinating. Scientists studying collective consciousness have found that when just 10% of any population shifts their awareness, it creates what they call a flame-like spread effect throughout the entire group. We're talking about mirror neurons firing in synchronized patterns, creating ripple effects that can transform entire societies overnight. But here's what makes 2025 extraordinary. In numerology, 2025 reduces to a 9, the number of completion, wisdom, and universal consciousness. More importantly, we're in the middle of Pluto's transit through Aquarius, a cosmic shift that happens once every 248 years. The last time this occurred was during the American Revolution. This isn't coincidence. Right now in Edinburgh, thousands are gathering for what looks like an arts festival, but it's actually humanity's biggest consciousness breakthrough in centuries. Edinburgh Fringe 2025 isn't entertainment. It's a consciousness portal where the divine feminine power that's been hidden for millennia is finally breaking through the mass mind programming. But here's what nobody talks about. The divine feminine isn't just some abstract spiritual concept. It's an actual frequency, it's measurable, it's scientific. And it's been systematically suppressed because when this energy awakens in enough people, it breaks the control mechanisms that have been used to manipulate human consciousness for millennia. Ancient civilizations understood this divine feminine power intimately. The Egyptians built entire temple complexes around goddess worship. The Celts recognized the sacred feminine as the creative life force in their stone circles. Indigenous cultures from the Maya to Aboriginal Australia base their entire societies around honoring this energy. Archaeological evidence shows these civilizations thrived for thousands of years without warfare, environmental destruction, or social inequality. But wait, here's something else they don't want you to know. Somewhere along the timeline of human history, this knowledge was systematically erased. Sacred texts were burned. Priestesses were hunted, goddess temples were destroyed, and replaced with patriarchal religious structures. Scientists studying epigenetics have discovered that trauma can actually be encoded in our DNA and passed down through generations. The suppression of divine feminine energy isn't just cultural programming. It's literally written into our genetic code, but here's where consciousness research reveals something extraordinary. When individuals begin to reconnect with divine feminine energy, they don't just change themselves. Their mirror neurons start firing in new patterns, creating what neuroscientists call neural entrainment with people around them. This synchronized brain activity can spread through social networks faster than any virus, creating collective shifts in awareness that reshape entire communities. This brings us to a breakthrough discovery about how consciousness actually operates. Tesla famously said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Modern physics has proven that everything in existence is vibrating at specific frequencies. Your thoughts, your emotions, your physical body, it's all energy in motion, and the divine feminine frequency has a very specific signature. Studies in sound healing have identified 777 Hz as what researchers call the divine feminine frequency. When people meditate or listen to music tuned to this frequency, their brainwaves begin to synchronize in patterns associated with deep spiritual states, creativity, and what psychologists call transcendent experiences. But here's what's fascinating. This same frequency appears in the sacred geometry of ancient temples dedicated to goddess worship. But here's what neuroscientists have discovered about these ancient consciousness tools. The symbols our ancestors used to represent divine feminine energy weren't just artistic expressions. They were consciousness activation tools. The yoni, representing the divine gateway of creation. The chalice, symbolizing the receptive wisdom that can hold and transform all experience. The spiral, reflecting the cyclical nature of birth, death, and rebirth that governs all life. Each of these symbols carries encoded information that can actually rewire neural pathways when contemplated deeply. Modern neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections based on repeated patterns of thought and visualization. Ancient wisdom traditions called it sacred geometry, the understanding that certain shapes and symbols can directly influence consciousness. When you meditate on the yoni symbol, you're activating dormant neural networks associated with creativity, intuition, and what scientists now recognize as right brain processing, the hemisphere responsible for holistic thinking, pattern recognition, and innovative problem solving. These are the same cognitive abilities that have been systematically suppressed in educational and social systems designed to create compliant, logical, left-brain dominant individuals. The chalice symbol works differently. When visualized during meditation, it activates what neuroscientists call the default mode network, brain regions associated with self-reflection, empathy, and the dissolution of ego boundaries. This is the same neural state that people experience during profound spiritual awakening, where the sense of separation between self and universe begins to dissolve. And the spiral? This symbol appears in everything from galaxy formations to DNA structure to the chambers of the human heart. When you focus on spiral imagery, your brain begins to recognize what complexity theorists call fractal patterns, the understanding that the same organizing principles that govern the cosmos also govern your individual consciousness. But wait, here's what scientists discovered that changes everything about collective transformation. We're not just talking about personal change anymore. We're talking about collective consciousness breakthrough. Mirror neurons, discovered just a few decades ago, have revolutionized our understanding of how awareness spreads through populations. These specialized brain cells don't just activate when you perform an action. They fire when you observe someone else performing the same action. This means that when you shift into divine feminine consciousness, when you activate these ancient neural pathways through symbol meditation and frequency work, you're not just changing yourself. You're creating vibrational ripples that influence everyone in your social network. Your family members, your friends, even strangers you encounter in daily life begin to unconsciously mirror these elevated states of awareness. Scientists studying collective behavior have documented this phenomenon in everything from synchronized swimming to mass meditation events. When groups of people focus their consciousness on similar intentions, their brain waves literally begin to synchronize, creating what researchers call coherent field effects that can be measured hundreds of miles away from the meditation site. This is why Edinburgh Fringe 2025 is so significant. You have thousands of artists, performers, and consciousness explorers all channeling divine feminine themes in their creative work. Theater productions exploring goddess mythology. Musicians incorporating 777 Hz frequencies into their compositions. Visual artists creating installations based on sacred feminine symbols. and audiences from around the world, absorbing these frequencies and carrying them back to their home communities. Individual transformation becomes collective revolution. One person reconnecting with divine feminine wisdom influences 10 others. Those 10 influence 100. Those 100 influence 1,000. The mathematics of consciousness expansion follow what scientists call exponential growth curves, slow at first, then exploding into rapid society-wide transformation. Stop everything you're doing right now and look at what's happening around you. The validation is everywhere if you know how to recognize it. At Edinburgh Fringe 2025, shows exploring divine feminine themes are selling out faster than any other category. Productions like The Goddess Awakens, Sacred Feminine Rising, and Breaking the Patriarchal Code are drawing audiences that span every demographic. Major streaming platforms are creating dedicated playlists for divine feminine meditation music. Wellness centers in cities worldwide are offering sacred symbol activation workshops that would have been considered fringe just 5 years ago. Even universities are launching research programs into consciousness studies and collective awareness phenomena. Medical schools are incorporating courses on frequency healing and the therapeutic applications of sacred geometry. The same knowledge that was once suppressed as witchcraft is now being validated as cutting-edge neuroscience. But the most powerful evidence is experiential. When you begin working with divine feminine frequencies and symbols, you don't just understand this transformation intellectually, you feel it. Your intuition becomes sharper, your creativity explodes, your ability to manifest desired outcomes increases dramatically, and most importantly, you start recognizing other people who are going through the same awakening process. Picture this shocking reality. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a world where 10% of the population has awakened to their divine feminine power. Picture societies where creativity and collaboration take precedence over competition and control. Envision communities where wisdom and intuition guide decision-making rather than fear and scarcity programming. This isn't fantasy. This is the natural direction of human evolution when divine feminine consciousness is allowed to flourish. The transformation happening right now at Edinburgh Fringe is a microcosm of the larger shift occurring across the planet. Artists and performers are channeling divine feminine frequencies into their work because they're responding to a collective call for balance, for healing, for the return of the sacred feminine principles that have been missing from human civilization for too long. Your individual awakening matters more than you realize. Every time you meditate with sacred symbols, every time you tune into 777 hertz of frequencies, every time you honor the divine feminine wisdom within yourself, you're contributing to the critical mass needed for collective consciousness breakthrough. You're not just healing yourself, you're healing ancestral trauma. You're activating dormant potential in your DNA. You're becoming part of the 10% who will shift reality for everyone. Let's dive deeper into the practical application. The research shows that consistent daily practice with divine feminine symbols and frequencies creates measurable changes in brain structure within just 8 weeks. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and emotional regulation, shows increased gray matter density. The corpus callosum, the bridge connecting left and right brain hemispheres, demonstrates enhanced connectivity. These aren't subtle changes. These are fundamental rewiring patterns that affect every aspect of your life experience. Sarah from Portland tried this for just 3 days and reported profound shifts in her dream patterns and intuitive insights. Dr. Martinez from Barcelona documented increased creativity scores in participants after 1 week of spiral symbol meditation. These aren't isolated cases. They're part of a growing body of evidence showing real neurological transformation. Sacred symbol meditation works by activating what neuroscientists call cross-modal plasticity, the brain's ability to create new connections between different sensory and cognitive regions. When you visualize the yoni symbol while listening to 777 Hz frequencies, you're creating neural pathways that integrate visual processing, auditory processing, and the brain regions associated with spiritual experience. The chalice symbol meditation activates the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve that connects the brain to major organs throughout the body. This stimulation triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, creating states of deep relaxation and expanded awareness. Regular practice literally rewires your nervous system to default to states of calm, clarity, and creative flow rather than stress, anxiety, and reactive patterns. Spiral symbol work engages the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory formation and spatial processing. This practice helps integrate conscious awareness with unconscious patterns, allowing you to recognize and transform limiting beliefs that have been operating below the threshold of awareness. Many practitioners report profound insights and breakthrough moments during spiral meditation sessions. Here are your key takeaways. First, divine feminine energy isn't abstract spirituality. It's measurable frequency that can be scientifically validated and practically applied. Second, sacred symbols serve as consciousness activation tools that can rewire neural pathways and expand awareness. Third, your individual transformation creates ripple effects through mirror neuron networks that influence collective consciousness. The daily practice recommendations are straightforward but powerful. Begin each morning with 7 minutes of 777 Hz frequency meditation while visualizing one of the 3 sacred symbols. Rotate between the yoni, chalice, and spiral throughout the week. End each session by setting an intention to radiate divine feminine wisdom throughout your day. During Edinburgh Fringe season, from August 1st to 24th, amplify your practice by consciously connecting with the collective energy of awakening happening in Scotland. Even if you can't physically attend, you can tune into the consciousness field being generated by thousands of people exploring divine feminine themes through art, music, and performance. Your next step is simple but profound. Choose one sacred symbol, yoni, chalice, or spiral, and commit to meditating with it for 7 minutes tonight while listening to 777 Hz frequencies. Pay attention to any insights, sensations, or shifts in awareness that occur. These are signs that your brain is beginning to rewire itself for expanded consciousness. Share your first meditation experience in the comments below. I read every single one, and your transformation stories inspire others to begin their own awakening journey. Remember, you're not just participating in personal spiritual growth. You're contributing to the most significant consciousness shift in human history. The divine feminine energy that has been suppressed for centuries is finally breaking through the mass mind programming. And every individual who awakens to this power brings us closer to the critical 10% needed for collective transformation. The ancient wisdom is becoming cutting-edge science. The sacred is becoming practical. The individual is becoming collective. This is your invitation to step into your divine feminine power and help birth a new era of human consciousness. Hit subscribe if you're ready to join the awakening movement and receive weekly content designed to expand your awareness and activate your highest potential. The future of human consciousness depends on people like you who are willing to break free from mass mind control and embrace the forbidden power that has always been your birthright.